Hello and welcome to another bite-sized edition of Beyond Bulbasaur. I've always been a bit of a contrarian. As a small child, I would root for rival sports teams from the ones my parents supported. When iTunes first became a thing, I bought all my music from buymusic.com, its chief competitor at the time. And when Pokemon became popular, I did all I could to avoid getting into it. I first heard about Pokemon in late 1998 or early 1999 when a friend whose mother supposedly worked at Nintendo got super into it. Also around that time, the cards became popular, and a first grader saw me playing Star Wars CCG, I was then in the 5th grade, and said, "Star Wars cards aren't cool anymore. Cool kids play Pokemon." In June of 1999, my best friend Nick received a Game Boy and Pokemon Red version. At this point, my Pokemon fandom was inevitable. Over the next 6 months, I went from, okay, we can get into the games, but I'm not watching the show or playing the cards, to, okay, I'll try the card game, to, I'm going to have my birthday party at the Pokemon movie premiere. Also, on that birthday, my parents bought me a Game Boy Color, and I used my birthday money from my grandparents to buy my own copy of Pokemon Red, starting my first game with Bulbasaur. But Bulbasaur wasn't technically my first Pokemon. For a kid with no allowance, $70 for a Game Boy and $30 for a game was impossible. But $10 for a Pokemon card starter deck was much more realistic. The Blackout theme deck featured Squirtle and Hitmonchan on the cover, with Hitmonchan as the foil. So really, from a certain point of view, Hitmonchan was my first Pokemon. Continuing on my contrarian theme, I've always loved the Karate Dojo. The idea of a gym where you end up earning a Pokemon instead of a badge is just so cool. I also love the choice between a dedicated fighting type like Hitmonlee and a jack-of-all-trades like Hitmonchan. I've talked previously about the lack of certain types in Gen 1, so being able to learn a move like Fire Punch can be key in that game. I also love Hitmonchan's design. It sort of looks like a tennis player with boxing gloves. I've never watched women's boxing. Do they wear tennis skirts? I don't know. Many of the more humanoid Pokemon designs don't really do it for me, but this one really works. While writing this up, something just occurred to me. Like many people, once I got into middle school, I had to hide and eventually let go of my Pokemon obsession. At least for a few years until that stuff came back around. I sold off all my cards except one, Hitmonchan, who I hung on to until eventually I gave even that card to my little sister Susie. Aside from a few examples of picking up theme decks from Target to play against each other, I've never really gotten back into the card game. But I did obtain two people's collections. One from a friend from high school who wanted to get rid of his cards before going into the military, and one from my sister Susie. A minute ago, I stopped typing this script and pulled out the collection from the drawer. Sure enough, just under her Kangaskhan foil, at the top of her stack of fighting types, was my old Hitmonchan. How many elder millennial fans can say they still have their very first Pokemon? Not many, I would guess. Thanks for listening, everyone. Keep catching them all.